Tracy Fanara, research scientist or environmental engineer. What is Earth Day? Well, Earth Day is a day to celebrate and recognize all that our Earth, our planet, provides for us. Without this planet, we wouldn't be able to survive. Without all of its intricacies, all of the processes that come into play, they provide water for us to drink, air to breathe. Everything about this Earth has dictated what not only allows us to be healthy, but even, what we look like. So Earth Day to me is really recognizing how amazing our great planet is, and paying attention to our actions and how we can do better at protecting and preserving our Earth systems. So get outside, educate people around you about trash, about science, about water. Ask people where their water comes from and where it goes, where their food comes from and where it goes. And just knowing that yourself and asking others that will teach you so much about how the world works and how important it is to protect our Earth at every single stage, because all of it comes back to impact us in the long run, whether it's financially through cost or our health or our recreation or our quality of life. So Earth Day is pretty awesome in all these ways that we can celebrate together our great planet. Anonymous asks, will humans go extinct because of climate change? And that's not really what's being predicted right now. It's more that our quality of life here on Earth would change, and populations would likely decrease. There will be people having to move because of saltwater encroachment on water sources, and the prevalence of more viruses, pandemics, more bacteria being exposed, some diseases in the Arctic, glaciers that have been trapped forever now being exposed because of the glacial melting. In addition, we're in the sixth mass extinction, and as our species start to dwindle, it does have an impact on us at the top of the food chain. So it's not really that we will go extinct, rather that our quality of life will be threatened. But there is hope. There are things that we can do right now to prevent the worst from happening. So hopefully we're making those changes. Scientists are working hard to protect the public. So wish us luck, and come join our team too. We need as many bright and passionate scientists and engineers to grow up and help us innovate solutions for humanity. In addition to that, we need more hairdressers, truck drivers, doctors, whatever, lawyers, whatever career path you actually end up in. We need more people to be educated about how the world works, about climate change, and about our impact on the Earth. So hopefully that answers your question. Skylar, what is it better to do? Burn your trash or throw it away? Well, when we burn trash, we end up transferring a material from solid phase to gas phase. These chemicals go up into the air and people can breathe them in. It can harm them, or they can contribute to global warming or air pollution. So burning, especially in your backyard, isn't a very good option. There are waste to energy plants, meaning that some places around the world take waste and burn it, and that transfer between solid and gas stage causes the gas to expand rapidly, which then pushes a turbine that produces energy. These are called waste to energy plants. And in that case, that's a little bit different because all of the pollution is contained and filtered. Now, when we throw away our trash, we always throw it in the garbage can. But even still, if you make it to the garbage can, some of that trash falls out of a truck. But we are running out of landfill space. And on top of that, some of our trash ends up leaching, meaning that the chemicals enter into the groundwater and start affecting people's health. So throwing trash away, even though it's better than burning stuff in your backyard, it's not really the answer. The best thing that you can do is reduce the amount of trash that you actually create. And the way that you can do this is by not using single-use plastic, remembering your reusable bag when you go to the grocery store or any store, buying things that have less packaging, and not ordering stuff so much, actually going to the store and buying it without packaging. There are many different ways that you can reduce the amount of trash that you produce. And in doing so, not only do you make the world a better place, it's better for your health in a lot of cases too. Like going to a farmer's market to get your vegetables or meat that has less packaging than going to a store where things have been shipped from all over the world and a lot of times contain plastic. So thanks for your question. Let me know if you have any more. Dr. Siebert's class, great question. What happens when an invasive fish enters into a lake? Well, good timing on that. Because of fish farming down near the Everglades, they were farming an Amazon fish that is an invasive species, and it grows really fast and really big, and some escaped, and now we're having a problem with these big fish. And basically what happens with these invasive species is that they outcompete the native species for resources, and they change ecosystem balance. So we're seeing this right now with the Amazon fish in the Everglades, but we're also seeing it with lionfish in the ocean. So lionfish, they grow really fast, so they reproduce really fast, and they outcompete other species, and they're changing the ecosystem. And when you have an invasive species come in and start eating native populations, that takes away from the food source of other native species that depended on that food source as well. So basically we can have ecosystem balance and ecosystem collapse from invasive species. And even though it's not in the water, we're seeing this in the Everglades with the pythons. They're eating like crazy. They grow really, really fast, and they're a major problem in our Everglades. So invasive species, whether it's a plant, a fish, an animal, they do pose problems to native species. In some cases, invasive species are introduced to areas to save a population, and I could go into that another time. Your next question was, what happens when we spray chemicals on plants in our lakes? Well, that's a great question too, and that's something else that we're seeing in Florida a lot. So I have a video up on my website, inspectorplanet.com, where I looked at my campus at the University of Florida. Greatest school ever, but I am biased. I spent a long time there. So I went and saw that there were fish dying. The fish populations were decreasing in this lake on campus called Lake Alice. And I did some research, and I found out that there was really high nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus coming into the lake. Now you would think that nutrients would be a good thing, right? But too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Kind of like chocolate cake. It's great until you eat too much of it. But so all of these nutrients are coming into this water body, which usually causes algae blooms to form, because algae, they love to eat nutrients, and they grow really, really fast. And it can be problematic because if you've ever seen a green paste on a lake or stream or anything, that blocks out sunlight. So photosynthesis can't occur from the organisms underneath, which is usually one of the problems with these high nutrients coming into these water bodies. But I wasn't seeing the algae blooms, but I was seeing the nutrients. Well, it comes to find out that they were adding copper sulfate to the lake to kill the algae blooms. Well, the problem was that this copper sulfate was adding up. It was accumulating and impacting the fish and the ecology inside the lake. So the ecosystem became imbalanced, and we had less fish in the lake. Now, you see all the time people adding herbicides to invasive plant species or plant species that grow really fast, like hydrilla, or algae blooms, or even weeds on somebody's lawn. And the problem with this is that every single time we add a chemical to the environment, we change that environment down to the micro scale. And we depend on everything underneath us to work for us to live life as we know it. So if we're changing that ecosystem, we could be changing the soil and changing the insects and changing the small animals and the big animals and basically changing our environment. And not only that, when it rains, rainfall runoff or stormwater picks up those chemicals and transports it to our natural water bodies. Our natural water bodies are where we get our drinking water, but also those natural water bodies are the habitat for so many aquatic animals and are the water bodies for land animals to drink from. So there are a lot of problems when we add herbicides, insecticides, fertilizers to our lawns. And it's something that I'm really passionate about, because here in Florida, we're told that we should have these lawns that look like we're from up north during the summer, but the truth is that Florida is so beautiful, and native species don't require fertilizer, insecticide, and herbicide and all that. Now the one thing that I do use is natural products to keep away mosquitoes. I do not like mosquitoes, personally, but your question was about plants, so we'll talk about that another day. Zoe from Mrs. Coates' class: that is a great question. What if we put more garbage cans near the roads? Would people be less likely to throw their trash on the ground? Well, in my experience, I've seen people just be 5 feet away from a trash can and throw it on the ground anyway, because they expected somebody else to clean it up for them, or they thought that everything on the ground went to a wastewater treatment plant, or they didn't know where it went. But what I noticed is that when I told my friends that every single drop of rain that lands on the state of Florida, along with everything on the land, like insecticides, herbicides, fertilizers, any kind of chemicals, anything, along with your trash, it ends up in our natural water bodies, becoming habitat for the ecosystem that we depend on to survive and experience life as we know it right now. On top of that, these natural water bodies end up being our drinking water source. We're not creating any new water. The amount of water that is here today was here 1,000 years ago, will be here 1,000 years from now. So you might have drank the same drop of water that George Washington did, or even a dinosaur, which is pretty cool. But at the same time, you realize that we are recycling our water. So everything that we put into the environment eventually comes back to affect our health. And the best thing that you can do is be a superhero for the planet and educate those around you. Let them know where that trash ends up. And you might be surprised at how much change you can create just through education. Luke, that is a great question. How much plastic do we produce every year? Well, the world, everybody in it, produces 380 million tons of plastic every year. To put that in perspective, that's like 270 million cars worth, which is crazy. And 8 million tons of it ends up in our oceans, becoming part of our ocean ecosystem. And our ocean ecosystem is so important because it maintains the balance of our oceans, chemically, biologically, physically even. And we really depend on our oceans to survive. Not only that, I mean, life as we know it is because of our ocean circulation patterns and the physics of the ocean and the biology and chemistry that go along with it. So yeah, we need to reduce our use of plastic, don't we? Hi, Zoe from Mrs. Coates' class. You bring up a great question. Trash is a huge problem, and what can we do about it? Putting trash cans by the road might help for some people, but there's still going to be a lot of people that won't go that extra 5 feet to throw away their trash. So what can we do? And the best thing that we can do is educate our friends, our family, our parents, and tell them that every single drop of rain in the state of Florida goes to our natural water bodies, and with it brings everything on the ground, including the trash. And those water bodies end up being the habitat for species that we depend on for food, and those water bodies eventually become our drinking water. And when people start to realize that throwing trash out their car window or on the road ends up impacting them, they might think twice. So you can make an impact here. You know, like everybody does make an impact. It's a responsibility that we can't avoid. It's our choice whether that impact's going to be positive or negative. and you educating the people around you, you can make quite an impact yourself. Thanks for your question. Hi, Mrs. Seminoni's class. That is a great question. What is an environmentalist? What do they do? Well, I'm an environmental engineer, and so I design systems to protect the public, whether it's water treatment or air quality, or making sure that our ecosystems are intact and are well balanced, or maintaining our hydrology like wetlands and lakes and rivers, and understanding how all of the Earth systems on our planet work together so that we can answer big questions while our Earth is constantly changing. But your question is really, what is an environmentalist? So an environmentalist is someone that really cares and works to preserve the environment, that educates others in how the world works. So there's only so much water. We're not making any new water. The water that's here was here 1,000 years ago and will be here 1,000 years from now. So that means you may have drank the same drop of water that a dinosaur drank. And at first you might think that that's pretty cool, but then you realize it's kind of gross, right? Well, that's how water works. We reuse our water. So when we pollute our water, that ends up coming right back towards us and impacting our health and impacting our quality of life. So an environmentalist does a good job of caring about the environment and our actions on the environment. What I do is I take that environmentalism and I combine it with science and engineering to create solutions, models, and strategies to solve problems and protect life as we know it. Emmett, what kinds of things that I do every day? Well, every day is so different. For the past 7 years, I ran a research program at Marine Laboratory where I had interns and employees, and we ran experiments to see how we can clean water, or how filter feeders like clams and mussels and shrimp, how they clean water, or we built apps for smartphones and websites to alert the public of where environmental hazards are. And we worked a lot with a toxic species of algae called Florida red tide, which is over on the west coast of Florida, southwest coast. We get a bloom every year, and it causes wildlife fatalities like fish kills, but that toxin can actually go into the air, attach onto sea salt particles, move on shore, and cause people to cough and sneeze. But for those with asthma or other illnesses, it can be really serious. So those apps and websites are to alert the public of where the effects of Florida red tide are, so that they can make healthy decisions when choosing a beach to go to. Also, we worked on mitigation technology, a cell phone microscope that we worked on with NASA and the Gulf of Mexico Coastal Ocean Observing System, so that citizens could actually take water, put it underneath a microscope, open up an app, and upload a 30-second video into that app. And the app has an algorithm that automatically calculates how much red tide is in the sample. It was pretty cool. And then that information goes to a NOAA model so that we can have real-time information on the effects of Florida red tide. Now I'm at NOAA, and I'm working with much bigger systems, not just the Gulf of Mexico, but the entire Earth. We're looking at how all of our Earth systems work together so that we can understand big questions about our changing world and how to protect humans from those changes. So every day is different, and it's always exciting because every day I'm working to preserve life as we know it and protect humans and wildlife for future generations to come.